But you mentioned something that I want to ask you about because there's a big discussion on standardizing salsa. And you touched a bit on it, being on the stage and the stage requiring lines of professionalism. But I think the fear is that standardizing, say, a Suzy Q takes the personality, the social identity, the street identity out of it. How do you feel about that?
I mentioned to you earlier that I was a jazz musician as well. So I always liken it to jazz. If you think about the different forms of jazz, free jazz, modern jazz, chill out, whatever it is, it's about freedom of expression. And
yes.
Jazz ultimately is improvisation. So you do what you want. However, nobody will pick up a guitar or piano and just start playing. You have to first learn your scales. You have to learn the technique. Once you learn the technique, you leave it behind. So for me, salsa is the same thing, where on a stage, you should learn the technique, you should standardize and codify it and make it highly rigid so that the world can understand that this is a sophisticated dance. And I hope I know you're very good with with what you're going to ask. I know we're going to get to Eddie Palmieri, but if you think, most of the Latin jazz artists and most musicians will acknowledge that African rhythms and Latin jazz is the most difficult genre there is. So that's the same for the dance. It's an unbelievably sophisticated dance. You can't just let it run and not pay attention to preserving the technical brilliance there. But you have to also stay true to the salsa movement.
Yeah.
So in choreographies, we always will go back to the roots. Our first choreography was done to the Spanish Harlem Orchestra, Cuando Te Vea, with Ruben Blades, who, if you think about it, Harvard-educated, New York City Council, Minister of Tourism in Panama, actor, is a person that really shows the sophistication of this culture. He wins the Grammy with the Spanish Harlem Orchestra. That's a song we choose. Eddie Palmieri, first Latin Grammy winner ever. We choose that album. We dance with him.
And 9-time Grammy.
Yes, 9 times. Mark Anthony is funny. I'm going to get to that as well. Because Mark Anthony is, everybody hates to admit that they love Mark Anthony.
I am proud to admit that.
So it's, I think at the core, he's an amazing musician.
Yes.
When you see him, anybody that sees Mark Anthony live will never be able to say that he doesn't have the passion and the power and the respect and knowledge for this dance to really showcase it to a broad audience.
And he brought it mainstream.
Absolutely. And if you look at our latest piece, is Ray Barretto, which brings back the really hard New York salsa sound.
Right.
So I think you have to be very, very clear about promoting the roots and staying true to the movement of salsa. But if you want to, in the age of Dancing with the Stars, and so you think you can dance, and whether you have talent, if you want to bring it in front of a TV audience on a big stage, you better look good, and you better have technical expertise that you can bring to it. That doesn't mean you can't look great in the club, but that's why, again, we said this dance is for everybody to enjoy socially. But this dance, if you are a professional dancer, you have to have respect for the stage, and you can't have, I always say, you can't have every clown just walk on stage and just do a Suzy Q. It just is not right. If you don't train hard enough, should you be on stage? I'm not sure.
Well, I think what I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that what you mean by bringing a little sophistication to salsa and standardizing it is to create a curriculum as if you would go to law school and you learn, the law, and then you go practice law, or you go to med school. There has to be a method to becoming a professional salsa dancer. And that's what I believe that you mean when you're saying sophistication to the dance.
Yes. And there is something our dancers have to go through a certification process for teaching. They have to get these licenses and certificates. They have to go through a research process. So they have to learn about where did salsa come from? Who was Larry Harlow? Who was Fania? Who is Eddie Palmieri? Who are the musicians? Who are the dancers? When did Eddie Torres start with Tito Puente? What is the history of all of this? Because otherwise, how will anyone have faith in you when you're a teacher and show around the world what this dance is about. Why are you teaching? You don't know what you're talking about, so you need to know that. I need to know that more than anyone else because I'm German. I do happen to speak Spanish, and I love Latin culture, and I studied the African rhythms and music theory behind it. But I have to prove more than anyone else out there why I feel passionate about this. And if you look at New York, you have this beautiful thing. If you look at, there's a guy that teaches at Columbia called Chris Washburn. He has his own band, but he also has published amazing articles on the clave. So you need to understand where the clave comes from and not just say, yeah, we dance to the clave. Okay, what is the clave? So the knowledge, I think, has to be at the core. If you want to be a teacher and a professional dancer, if you just want to go out social dancing, no, you don't have to. That's the same as if you just go for 3 days to Italy and all you want to do is order cappuccino. You don't need to speak Italian. But if you want to teach there at a university, a course in anything, you better speak.